It is 5 o'clock on Tuesday, July 14th, 2026, and I'm calling to order the Placerville City Council meeting. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, could I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Carter.
Present.
Councilmember Clarici.
Here.
Mayor Gottberg.
Here.
Vice Mayor No.
Here.
Councilmember Yarbrough.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to move on to our ceremonial matters. Item number 3.1, a proclamation declaring July 2026 as Park and Recreation Month. Whereas parks and recreation are essential to building strong, vibrant, and resilient communities, and the National Recreation and Park Association has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month to celebrate the power of parks and recreation. And whereas the City of Placerville is proud to provide residents and visitors with access to exceptional parks, trails, and recreational opportunities, including Goldbug Park and Mine, Lions Park, City Park, Rotary Park, and the Placerville Aquatic Center and the Eldorado Trail, which connect our community to nature, history, and one another. And whereas parks and recreation programs promote physical and mental well-being, support youth development, foster special connection and belonging, and provide inclusive opportunities for people of all ages and abilities. And whereas parks and recreation contribute to Placerville's economic vitality by enhancing property values, attracting visitors and tourists, supporting local businesses, and creating jobs through events, programs, and facilities operations. And whereas parks and natural areas protect the environment, improve air and water quality, provide wildlife habitat, and offer residents meaningful connections to Placerville's rich history and natural beauty. And whereas the City of Placerville's Community Services Department, along with dedicated staff, volunteers, and community partners, work year-round to deliver high-quality parks, programs, and experiences that improve the quality of life for all who live, work, and visit our community. Now, therefore, I, Nicole Gottberg, Mayor of the City of Placerville, do hereby proclaim July 2026 designated as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of Placerville, and encourage all residents to visit our parks, participate in recreational programs, and celebrate the power of parks and recreation to build a healthier, more connected, and resilient community. I'm going to give this to our Director of Community Services.
I have no idea. But I think I figured out why all the people are here. They're here for the police.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
There might be people here. There might be here for the zoning thing we're not gonna do, to make sure we don't do it, I think. That would be the, otherwise I don't know. Look at that, nice.
Yeah.
Nice shirts. Right?
All right. Would any member of the public like to comment on 3.1? All right, I see none, so we will move on now to 3.2, a proclamation declaring August 4th, 2026 as National Night Out. Whereas the National Association of Town Watch is sponsoring a unique nationwide Lights On campaign and celebration against crime, drug, and violence on August 4th, 2026, entitled National Night Out. And whereas National Night Out provides a unique opportunity for the City of Placerville to join forces with 38 million people in over 16,000 communities from all 50 states, U.S. territories, Canadian cities, and military bases in promoting cooperative police community crime prevention efforts. And whereas the City Council plays a vital role in assisting the Placerville Police Department through joint crime, drug, and violence prevention efforts in the City of Placerville, and is supporting National Night Out 2026 locally. And whereas it is essential that all citizens of the City of Placerville are aware of the importance of crime prevention programs and impact that their participation can have on reducing crime, drugs, and violence in Placerville. And whereas community partnerships, neighborhood safety awareness, and camaraderie are important themes of National Night Out programs. Now, therefore, I, Nicole Gottberg, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Mayor of the City of Placerville, State of California, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, August 4th, 2026 as National Night Out in the City of Placerville, and urge all citizens of the City of Placerville to join the Placerville Police Department, the National Association of Town Watch, and their sponsors in supporting National Night Out on August 4th, 2026. All right. Bring this down to our police folks.
I'm going to just say nice things about both of them.
Well,
You think so?
I don't know.
On behalf of the department, I'd just like to say thank you to our residents, our sponsors, our city, and our city council. We could not do it without you guys, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
You need to let John talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, would you like to talk?
Well, sure. Well, that goes without saying, but no, two things. One is we didn't say anything about our park and rec department, and they're great, by the way. You know, they do a lot of work, and it runs great. The pool, I don't know what's going on. I hear it's better this year than last year. Lots of activities. My wife certainly likes to do some of them. And anyway, we don't spend enough time, really recognizing that and congratulating them because as we all know, if it wasn't for them, Central El Dorado County would have no recreation. So, organized recreation. Anyway, so that's that. And National Night is great. Always a good hot dog and other kinds of foods and a good time. So, anyway, thank you.
All right. Any other members of the council? All right. Any members of the public like to comment on 3.2? All right. I see none. So we're going to move on to 3.3, swearing in of newly appointed police staff, Acting Police Chief Maciel.
Mayor Gottberg and members of the City Council, thank you. Yeah. Though this introduction is late tonight, I'm proud to introduce Dallas Ibarra to the City Council and the community. Dallas comes from a close-knit family, many of whom are in the audience with us today. She's also a proud mom of a 10-year-old son, Grayson, and I was told he is the adorable kid with green glasses and matching hair. You could thank your mom for that. Dallas is a graduate of Vista Del Lago High School in 2012, and she spent about 9 years in a career of banking before she decided to pursue a path in public safety, joining the Placerville Police Department Dispatch Center on February 6, 2026. When she's not serving our community, she enjoys time with her family and friends who are the foundation of her life. She calls her best friend Brittany, who is also in the audience here, the surprised-looking one, who she shares everyday updates with. We're grateful to have her part of our Placerville Police Department family. With that, we'll do a little ceremonial swearing in.
Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true and faithful allegiance to the United States, to the Constitution of the United States, and the Constitution of the State of California. I take this obligation freely. Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about.
All right.
Yeah, she's just as shy as me, so she wants it.
Oh, no, now she's coming back.
Thanks, Chief Joe. my mom always said that she wanted to raise productive members of society, and I think that's why I chose this career path. So thanks, Mom. This has not been an easy change for me or my family, but luckily I have a great and amazing support system sitting here. There's a lot more, they're just missing. And I also have the privilege to work with some of the greatest people I've ever met. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That explains the.
Yeah, a lot of the people. That's what they're here for.
That's awesome. Like you know each other.
All right. All right. Would anybody from the council like to comment on this?
I just want to say welcome aboard and welcome to the family.
All right.
I just want to say thank you very much for choosing our town and for helping to keep us safe. So thank you and welcome.
All right. Any member of the public want to comment on 3.3? All right. Okay. Moving on. Closed session report. We did not have closed session tonight. Adoption of the agenda, item number 5.
I'll move the agenda.
I'll second.
All right, I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. All right, we're going to move on to item number 6, announcements, presentations to the public. 6.1, brief comments by the City Council. I'll start with Councilmember Yarborough.
I have none tonight.
Councilmember Carter.
I have none tonight.
Vice Mayor No.
I have none.
There's a lot of pressure here. I have none.
All right. I do have a couple of things that I wanted to say tonight. The first is I will not be seeking re-election. So I know it's currently filing time for City Council. So I know I keep getting that question, wanted to announce to the public. I'm very grateful that I've had this opportunity. I'm looking forward to my next 6 months as mayor. I'm not going anywhere anytime in the immediate. But I will not be moving forward in the following years. I'm looking at some other, opportunities with my life that may take me out of the city of Placerville. So let's see here. And then I also am going to be attending the Equality California Leadership Academy or Leadership Summit in Sacramento on August 3rd and 4th. All right, so we're going to move on to the consent calendar. Anybody like to pull anything from consent? All right, I see none. Oh, would any member of the public like to comment on item 6? All right. Consent calendar. No, nobody wants to pull anything from consent. All right. Is any member of the public like to comment on anything on our consent calendar? All right. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
I'll move the consent calendar.
Oh, sorry.
I'll second it.
All right. I have a first and a second. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
You sure you haven't left yet?
It's gone now.
It's gone. I'm gone.
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarborough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Gottberg?
Aye. All right. We're going to move on to item number 8, public comment, non-agenda items. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matter that is not on our agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. You're going to be limited to 3 minutes. Would anybody like to talk to us about something not on our agenda tonight? All right, great. Item 8.2, did we have any written communication?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, we had no items pulled from the consent calendar, and we have no ordinances tonight. So we will move on to item number 11, public hearings. 11.1, General Plan Amendment, GPA 26-03 and Zone Change ZC 26-03 to apply the Housing Opportunity Overlay to 27 52 Coloma Street, and recommendation to decline adoption of the mitigated negative declaration. Ms. Kendrick.
Thank you, Mayor Gottberg and members of the City Council. Carol Kendrick, Director of Development Services, presenting item 11.1, which is General Plan Amendment 2603, Zone Change 2603, and the associated mitigated negative declaration for the property located at 2752 Coloma Street. This item involves a request to apply the housing opportunity overlay to 3.77 acres on Highway 49, which would have allowed up to 67 multifamily units at 20 to 24 dwelling units per acre, with at least 50% being affordable. The original intent was to implement Housing Element Program A-3. However, both staff and the Planning Commission now recommend denial. On June 16th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and voted unanimously 4-0 to recommend denial. Commissioners cited site-specific concerns along Highway 79 corridor, or 49 corridor, including pedestrian safety, traffic operations, and wildfire evacuation constraints. They also directed staff to consult further with HCD. Subsequent discussions with the California Department of Housing and Community Development confirmed that the city can remain in substantial conformance with Program A3 without rezoning the site. Importantly, 2752 Coloma Street is not included in our housing element site inventory. It is not required for us to meet our RENA allocations, and denial of these applications will not jeopardize the city's housing element compliance status. Given this updated guidance, combined with the Planning Commission's findings on safety constraints that are not present at the other two approved sites, staff recommends denial of GPA 26-03, denial of zone change 26-03, and declining to adopt the mitigated negative declaration for these items. The draft resolution before you formalizes these actions. It finds that the site is not needed for RENA compliance. The HCD has confirmed we stay in good standing without this rezoning, and that the identified safety constraints warrant denial. It also directs staff to transmit our findings to HCD. We believe this is the right decision for public safety while maintaining full housing element compliance. At this time, I respectfully recommend that the council adopt this resolution as presented, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions from the council? All right, I see none. I'm going to open the public hearing. Would any member of the public like to comment on this? All right.
Hi, my name is Max Mizell. I am the resident at 2744 Coloma Street, which borders the parcel 2752 Coloma. I would like to thank the City Planning Department for acknowledging the deficiencies with the CEQA study, including impacts to vehicle safety, impacts to pedestrian safety, impacts to wildfire evacuation routes, impacts to wildfire response routes. And I also would like to add that the CEQA study does not acknowledge the fact that in 1994, Resolution 5894 determined that my house has historical significance. The parcel at 2752 Coloma borders 2 out of 4 sides of my parcel. I hope the council is in agreement with the Planning Department and the Planning Commission to deny the rezoning. Thank you.
Any further public comment? All right, I see none, so I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for action.
I move staff recommendation.
I will second.
All right, I have a first and a second. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Gottberg?
Aye. All right, we're going to move on now to item 12, discussion action items. 12.1, consider abolishing the assistant engineer position, amending the city engineer title and job specification to city engineer, director of engineering, approving salary adjustments for 3 engineering department engineering division provisions, approving and affirming a new salary schedule effective July 18th, 2026. Ms. Savage.
Thank you, Mayor Gottberg and City Council members. The purpose of this item is to make immediate structural and financial modifications to the engineering division of the engineering department to ensure continuity of engineering services and delivery of critical federally funded projects. According to the adopted fiscal year 26-27 budget, the Engineering Department Engineering Division is comprised of a city engineer, a senior civil engineer, an associate engineer, an assistant engineer, an engineering specialist, and an administrative assistant that we share 50-50 with the Public Works Department. However, I have had 2 vacant positions, the assistant and associate engineer, since June of 2024. In those 2 years, we have received 26 applications. We interviewed a handful of candidates, but we have made 0 job offers. The majority of applicants were lacking in the right qualifications for the job. Others were lacking in the right level of motivation. I wanted to share, in fact, I had one applicant show up to an interview and tell me that they were interested in a slow-paced government job. I had to respectfully tell them, I'm sorry, but if that's true, this job is not for you. In fact, I actually need a trained killer. I need someone who's going to show up on day 1 and serve as a project manager on a $10 to $20 million transportation project without hesitation. I need someone who can also delicately handle difficult conversations with property owners, and someone who has the right level of public and customer service skills. On last Friday, my last standing engineer, the senior civil engineer, resigned, and now I have 3 vacant engineer positions. Over the next 2 years, the engineering division has committed to delivery and construction of 8 capital improvement program projects totaling a construction cost of $42 million. And those are just the projects in construction. There are many other projects in the design phase moving up the list for construction in 2028 through 2030. In addition to CIP projects, the engineering department provides a variety of engineering services, including plan reviews and permit processing for development projects, managing encroachment permits, interdepartmental support services, engineering services for stormwater and wastewater permit compliance, traffic engineering services, code enforcement services, community outreach and engagement regarding the city's infrastructure, and many, many other tasks that are essential to operations of the city. I can't do this alone. Before listing the senior civil engineer position, I performed a salary survey to determine the competitive market rate for this critical position. Based on a survey of 11 nearby agencies, the city's senior engineer position is 13.5 approximately % lower than the average salary and 17.46 below the median. We lose employees most commonly to the city of Folsom, El Dorado County, and EID, and we are far below those agencies in terms of pay. To attract a qualified candidate and remain competitive with our neighbors, staff is recommending a 10% salary increase to the senior civil engineer position. Staff is also recommending proportionate adjustments to the associate civil engineer and city engineer position to avoid compaction. And staff is proposing to abolish the assistant engineer position to offset the cost increase of the other 3 positions. If approved, this will result in a net savings of $105,477 for fiscal year 26-27. However, it is important to note that the cost savings is really just a wash because the assistant engineer position has a very high rate of cost recovery due to work on grant-funded CIP projects and other reimbursable expenses or services. So it's not a big general fund savings. With that, I really don't know what else to say. If I'm unsuccessful in hiring 1 or 2 more engineers, engineering department services will suffer. It will come at the cost of the ability to perform the basic engineering services that we provide, inability to meet project deadlines, and failure to deliver projects, and potentially the loss of grant funding. Staff is also recommending an amendment to the job title of the city engineer to the city engineer director of engineering. The city engineer position is considered a director position. The city engineer oversees the engineering division as well as the water reclamation facility. But my title currently does not state that I am a director, and my authority to sign documents on behalf of my department is questioned frequently. So this proposed change would accurately reflect my duties as department director. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Are there questions from the council?
I just have one. So will we be able to shift the cost recovery to one of these other positions that the assistant engineer was doing so that we won't affect any of our cost recoveries from the CIP?
Correct, yeah. The other positions, once we know the type of people that we're hiring, if they're going into more utilities or CIPs like federally funded projects, the CIPs do have a higher cost recovery because of the grant funding that we have on projects.
Excellent. So we won't be losing any of that
Correct. That'll
ability
still
to
get
collect
worked
those.
out. It just is going to have to be shifted depending on which person goes where.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the council? All right, I see none. Would any member of the public like to comment on this item?
Sue Rodman, resident of Placerville, and good evening, City Council. We have wonderful people who work for us, but we do have to pay people enough that they can afford to live here and that they can be competitive with nearby entities who would perfectly like to steal our good people. So we really need to do something about getting these people paid what they're worth, because they're worth a whole lot more probably than we are paying them right now. And if they are able to go and work for Folsom and Sacramento and EID and get a raise, that says we are not paying them what we need to pay them to keep them. And it's a lot more expensive when you have to keep training new people. You need to keep your good people. And in order to keep your good people, you do have to pay them. So anything we can do to make that happen, we need to do.
All right, any further comments from the public? If not, I will bring it back up to the council. Any discussion or a motion?
I'll move staff recommendation.
I'll second.
All right, I have a first and a second. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Gottberg?
Aye. All right, we are going to move on now to item 12.2. Consider approving a budget appropriations totaling $300,000 for the storm drain replacement Upper Broadway and Point View Drive project, approving task order 10 for the construction management services with Dewberry Engineers, Inc., approving a construction contract with CE Cox Engineering, Inc., and authorizing the city manager contract change order authority up to $25,000 per change order. Ms. Savage.
Thank you, Mayor Gottberg and council members. The purpose of this item before you this evening is to award a construction contract and begin the construction phase of the storm drain replacement project at Upper Broadway and Point View. In 2021, a segment of the city's storm drain system failed adjacent to Upper Broadway near the intersection of Point View Drive and Monterey Road. This portion of the city-owned storm drain system was originally installed by Caltrans as part of the construction of US 50 in the 1960s. The system consists of corrugated metal pipe that has exceeded its useful service life, resulting in significant deterioration and the formation of a large sinkhole outside of the roadway. The project will repair the sinkhole, replace the failed storm drain facilities, and restore proper function of the system. The engineering department began advertising and published the bid documents for the project on April 28th. A public bid opening was held on June 25th, and 3 bids were received. The first from CE Cox General Engineering in the amount of $287,584. The second from Doug Veerkamp General Engineering in the amount of $337,404. And the third from the Resource Development Company in the amount of $608,120. Staff is recommending approval of a contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, CE Cox. Back in April, I told you that the engineering department was planning to perform the construction management services in-house. However, due to the recent resignation, we can no longer do that. Staff is requesting approval of Task Order 10 to the agreement for consulting services with Dewberry Engineers to perform the construction management and inspection services in an amount not to exceed $65,080.88. And in accordance with our typical construction contract procedures, staff is requesting approval for the city manager to execute change orders up to $25,000 per change order in an aggregate amount not to exceed $50,000 for the project. And lastly, staff is recommending approval of budget appropriations totaling $300,000 from the Measure L Fund, $200,000 of which was recommended by the Measures H&L Committee at their meeting on June 3rd, 2024. The proposed project budget will cover all projected expenditures and leave room for sufficient contingency. This project was designed in-house by engineering department staff, which resulted in some cost savings, but there is some additional cost increases due to the construction management service. So included in the budget appropriations is a request for an additional $100,000 from the Measure L Construction Reserve. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Right. Are there any questions from the council? All right, I see none. Would any member of the public like to comment on this item?
Sue Rodman, member of the Measure H, Measure L committee, and yes, we did vote to go ahead with this. The city of Placerville has a lot of infrastructure that was built in the 60s and in the 50s, even in the 30s, and has not been updated and not kept up with the times and not been kept on track. And now we are seeing the results of this. And we see the results of not paying our people enough, so now we have to pay extra to get this work done. But old stuff degenerates. We've seen it before. I mean, we have seen other storm drains fail, and we have seen sewer systems fail, and we have seen water systems fail. And a lot of them could have been prevented if the city had been more proactive years and years ago in the 70s and 80s and 90s. And so now we are left to pick up the pieces. And this is a good example of that. If you have a storm drain that's been done with old steel pipe and it rusts out, you're done. You have to fix it. So, yeah, we need to do this, and it's too bad that we lost one of our engineers so that now we have to pay for somebody else to do the project manager, but it's the way it goes. So I support this.
All right, would any member of the public like to comment on this item? All right, I'm going to bring it back up to the council for a motion.
I will move staff's recommendation.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a first and a second. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Gottberg?
Aye. All right, we're going to move on now to item 12.3. Consider approving a budget appropriation of $300,000 for the Giovanni Road sewer line replacement project, ratifying a purchase agreement for the acquisition of an easement, approving an agreement for materials testing services with Geocon Consultants, Inc., approving task order 9 for construction management services with Dewberry Engineers, Inc., approving a construction contract with C.E. Cox General Engineering, Inc., and authorizing the city manager contract change order authority up to $25,000 per change order. Ms. Savage.
Thanks again, Mayor Gottberg and council members. Very similar to the last item. The purpose of this item is to award a construction contract and begin the construction phase of the Giovanni Road sewer line replacement project. During the Madrone and Giovanni sewer lift station projects, concerns were raised by an adjacent property owner related to the existing sewer collection system between multiple properties in the lift station. It was determined that a public sewer main was crossing private property without proper access or maintenance rights. In 2014, the city purchased an easement and entered into an agreement with the property owner of 1108 Madrone Lane to construct the sewer main within the easement. A CIP project was then created for this work, and in 2024, the project design kicked off when the city awarded an agreement for engineering services to REY Engineers. The project will realign the sewer main and pave the access road. To complete the 20-foot wide access easement that is needed for the project, a second utilities and access easement was granted on July 20th by the property owner of 2413 Patton Court. Staff is recommending ratifying the purchase agreement for this easement in the amount of $1,500. The engineering department began advertising and published bid documents for the project on April 28th, and a public bid opening was held on June 18th, and 2 bids were received. The first from C.E. Cox General Engineering in the amount of $148,316, and the second from Doug Veerkamp General Engineering in the amount of $174,390. Staff is recommending approval of a contract to the lowest bidder, C.E. Cox. Construction of the project also requires materials testing, geotechnical services for the new pavement, and staff utilized the qualified consultants list to request proposals for those services. Staff is recommending approval of an agreement with Geocon Consultants in the amount of $9,270 for the materials testing. And similar to the other project, back in April, I also told you that the engineering department was going to perform the construction management services, but since we had a resignation, that is no longer feasible, and so we are requesting approval of a task order with Dewberry for construction management services in an amount not to exceed $55,820.73. Staff is also requesting approval for the city manager to execute necessary change orders with CE Cox up to $25,000 in an aggregate amount not to exceed $45,000 for the project. And staff is recommending approval of a $300,000 budget appropriation from the Measure H fund for the project, which was recommended by the Measures H&L Committee on June 2nd, 2025. The proposed budget will cover all projected expenditures and leave room for sufficient contingency. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Are there any questions from the council?
I have one quick one. I didn't have time to check. Does this section of sewer line replacement going to clean up any of our Orangeburg piping? And do we know if that's in any of the, no? Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the council? I see none. Would any member of the public like to comment on this item? All right. I see none. I'll bring it back up to the council for a motion.
I'll move staff recommendation.
I'll second.
All right. I have a first and a second. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Gottberg?
Aye. All right, we're going to move on to 12.4. Acknowledge and file the annual fiscal report and independent auditors reports for single audit and independent auditors report for fiscal year 2024-2025. Ms. Tornin-Casa.
Yay.
Good afternoon, Mayor Gottberg and City Council members. So just a quick review. The city's financial statements are audited annually by an independent certified public accountant, a CPA. The purpose of the year-end audit is for the independent CPA to express an opinion of whether the city's financial statements present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the city. So your auditors, the PUN Group, accountants, and advisors conducted a thorough audit of the city's financial statements for fiscal year 2024 to 2025, which was completed on June 30th of 2026. Andrew Roth, the CPA and partner from the PUN Group, was unfortunately unable to attend in person. He apologizes for that. He's able to meet virtually if necessary. But he has put together the attached presentation overview. So I will present the overview on his behalf at a high level, and I'm happy to answer any questions. So let's get started. So this is a similar presentation that was presented 2 years ago. We'll go over the scope of work and timing, required communications, overview of the financial statements, and then a couple key financial indicators, and then spend a little bit of time on pension and OPEB information. So what is OPEB? OPEB is other post-employment benefits, and for the city of Placerville, that's retiree medical. So we'll spend some time there. And then the last part to wrap it up is our audit results. So scope of work and timing, basically there's 2 audits that have to be performed. The first one is we have to complete our financial statements so we can complete the annual financial report and the financial audit. So that's where they really look at our books and our records. And then there's a second audit, there's a compliance audit. It's a single audit for federal expenditures. So if a city expends more than $750,000, then we're required to do a single audit. It's just to make sure that those funds are in compliance with laws and regulations. So there were 2 audits performed for 24-25. So required communication, that includes, this is just, it's the same every year. Management's responsibility, who is management? It's the city and city council. So we are responsible for the financial statements. We need to make sure that we present the financial statements in accordance with GAAP, the general accepted accounting principles, that we have sound accounting policies. We establish and maintain internal controls over our financial reporting and compliance. We provide evidence of supporting the amounts and disclosures in the financial statements, that they're presented fairly. and free from material misstatements, whether it's due to fraud or error, and that we prevent and detect fraud. So that's just kind of like a safeguard program. So that's our responsibility. Then the PUN group, who's our auditors, they're responsible to perform the audit. They communicate with those charged with governance. So as I said, this was Andrew's presentation. I'm just presenting it on his behalf. They assess audit risk of internal control over financial reporting. And so if they see more risk, they're going to audit more. And determine fairness of the presentation of the financial statements, render an opinion, and then issue any recommendations into management. So they have issued an opinion, and they do have some recommendations. So I'll get to those momentarily. Just some other required communication, significant accounting policies. This is really note 1 of that 104-page document. Those are just what the city, our policies are when we do our accounting. Then this General Accounting Standards Board, they come up with all these new requirements every year. This year we were hit with 2. Number 101 that had to do with compensated absences. What are compensated absences? A lot of people know those as like vacation accruals, but now we also look at sick accruals. And then number 2, the number 2 that occurred was number 102, which is certain risk disclosures. And basically, certain risk disclosures require state and local governments to disclose financial vulnerabilities, which could be like the lack of diversity in revenue. And then, so in order to prepare the financial statements, there has to be significant estimates. And those estimates include like fair value of investments, depreciation of capital assets, which is like the useful life, compensated absences, and then net pension liability and OPEB liability. So net pension liability and OPEB is really done by our actuary, which is Foster and Foster. And so this is really derived from both CalPERS and our actuary, but just again, OPEB is basically retiree medical liability. And we'll go over that in a little bit more detail as well. Required communication. So the sensitive disclosures, I'm not going to go over these in detail, but they're just highlighting the biggest notes that are part of the financial statements, which is note 1, our accounting policies, note 8, which is CalPERS, the retirement system. We have, miscellaneous and safety. Note 9, which is that post-retirement, so the CalPERS, pension liability. Note 10, classification of fund balances. Note 14, a restatement of beginning balances and contingencies, which are generally like liabilities. It could be like legal things that are pending legally, things like that. Okay, so basically they created a letter, and it's the AU 6260, and in that letter that is part of the financial statements package goes over misstatements. So good news here, there were no corrected or uncorrected misstatements reported. They confirmed with management that we didn't work with any consultations with other accountants regarding the audit, and they didn't encounter any significant difficulties in dealing with the management at the city, and there were no disagreements with city management. Okay, overview of our financial statements. So this is kind of tricky because net position as of June 30th, 2025, it says governmental activities. What are those? A lot of people would think that that's like general fund. It's not just general fund. It also includes like transportation, Measure J and L, a lot of the grants. So this won't be similar to the budget. It also takes into consideration our like pension liabilities and the actuarial reports, but it's important to go over, and what you can see is for government, we split it up into 2 major sections, governmental activities and business activities. So like I said, governmental activities is primarily like our general fund, transportation, Measure J and L, grants, whereas business activities are primarily your water and sewer enterprise funds. So when we look at our assets, we are assets of 99 million. You add your deferred outflows, your deferred outflows and inflows are by the actuary, and then you subtract your liabilities and your inflows, that gets you to a net position of $74 million, which is $2.5 million more than the previous year. When you look at that $74 million net position, it's important to note that a lot of that is capital assets of $75 million, and basically that's not liquid assets. And then the restricted is anything restricted by a third party like a grant. And then the unrestricted, for the last several years, it's going to show a negative balance. It's something that has to be reported that way because of our pension liability. And then sticking with governmental activities, we'll just look at the change in the net position, and it's a total of $3 million. So you can look at our charge of services, plus our grants, plus our capital grants. So our total program revenues, again, this really isn't a budget. This is just kind of going over our governmental activities net position. So program revenues were 10.3 million, but what you'll see is our expenses were 21 million. And so our net cost of service was a negative 10 million, but then you add in general revenues, which are like sales tax and investment income, and then we had a transfer in, so our net position increased by $3 million. So then really quick, the next few slides are basically duplicate, but it's just strictly to their business type activities. Again, that's primarily our water and sewer, and I think it's measure H. So you can look at the year over year, but our assets are 75 million. You add the deferred outflows, you minus the liabilities and the inflows to get to a net position of 33 million. And then when you look at what makes up that 33 million, you have that non-liquid investment in the capital assets of 25, and then your restricted, and then your unrestricted. And the unrestricted of $8 million is really CIP projects. And so then our change in net position for the fiscal year of 2025 was $3.7 million. And you can just see our program revenue was 10 million, our expenses were 8 million. So that left us a balance for cost of service of 2 million. General revenues, that's primarily measure H and the investment income, and then we had a transfer out, gives us a change in net position of 3.7 million for projects. Okay, so this is where I'll spend a little bit more time because it says general fund. And this, as you guys all know, is really the only place where the city has discretionary use of these funds. All the other funds are pretty much restricted. So when we look at, and I've gotten this question from City Council, so I think it's important to address. So when you look at the general fund, we have $5.2 million in assets minus about $1 million in liabilities. When you look at fund balance, so our general fund, as of June 30th, 2025, has a fund balance of $4.2 million, and it's showing that the unassigned amount is 4.1, which is actually a significant increase from 1.4 last year. So that's something I'm going to closely look at. So that basically is our rainy day fund, kind of our reserves. So as of June 30th of 2025, we have a $4 million general fund balance. However, I believe that some of that might be restricted. And then we will definitely be drawing down on that with the 681 Main Street purchase and renovations. So change in fund balance. Okay, we actually didn't present our 2024 financial statements because they were so close. We finished our financial statements for 2024 in May, and we finished our financial statements for 2025 in June. So I'm just showing they're just showing you the year-over-year change. And what you can see is for the general fund, so this really is like our budget, the change in fund balance. So we had revenue of 11.2, we had expenditures of 10.6. That gave us revenue over expenditures of a little over $500,000. Then we've got those transfer outs, which is generally like property, insurance, general liability. That left us with a change in fund balance of 261. So you would say that's a $260,000 surplus for fiscal year of 2025. But the really cautionary tale is if you look at 2024, it was a negative $900,000. So we have to manage that general fund very closely. We will present at mid-year. We are meeting all the department heads in August. And, at a minimum, we owe you guys a mid-year report, but we should probably move to quarterly reports to see how we're doing. Okay, so I'm almost to the audit results, but real quick, I wanted to go over just some major key financial indicators and then the pension and OPEB information. So the net cost of service, this is a key financial indicator to tax revenue. So basically it's saying that your expenses, now this is governmental activities, so this is not just the general fund, this includes transportation. Your expenses were 21 million, but your program revenue was 10 million. So your net cost of service was 10 million. However, when you add in the tax revenue, it's still good news, because basically what it's showing is as long as the city is below 100%, then we're doing okay. So for every $1 in tax revenue, in this case it's $13 million, we are spending 83 cents of that on operating costs. Okay, but what I want to call out here, as well as tax revenue, as you can see for 2024 and 2025 is relatively flat. It was 3.3 and it actually decreased in 2025, and that really is the trend, to be flat. Program revenues is where we can, just like the general fund budget is discretionary, program revenues to an extent, but the cost of service is where we have more flexibility, whereas sales tax, we're pretty limited at this point. If you look at then the unassigned fund balance, so this is another key financial indicator, unassigned fund balance to annual expenditures. So what we've mentioned this before, we have $4 million in our general fund. Our annual expenditures are 10 to 11 million. So that gives us a funding ratio of 38%. If you look at the GFOA, they recommend no less than 2 months of regular operating expenditure, revenue to cover expenditures. So what you'd like to see here is at a minimum 16.67%. Really the new recommendation is 3 months, which would be 25%, which means we have enough rainy day reserves to cover 3 months of our operating costs in our general fund. So that would show you a 25%. If you look at this financial statement in this fiscal year, we did fairly well, because we're showing an unassigned fund balance of $4 million, which will cover more than 3 months of our operating expenses. However, if you look at 2024, we didn't hit that number. If it came very, very close. Our unassigned fund balance was only 1.4, which means we couldn't even cover 2 months of expenses through our general fund. Okay, net pension liability sensitivity analysis. So like I said, we have 2 major pensions. We have miscellaneous, which is all non-sworn, and safety, which is sworn. So when you look at this, our liability is $24 million. Okay, right now our funded ratio for miscellaneous is 63%, whereas for public safety it's 69%. Of course, we'd like to be 100% funded. That's not really realistic at this point. If you look at other cities, they're closer to about a 72 to 74% funded ratio, so we've fallen a little bit behind. However, we are doing the city is making all required contributions. We're just not making extra contributions. And the discount rate is basically the interest rate. So they have it at 6.9. Now, this is done by the actuary, but then they do a sensitivity analysis. So if interest rates were to drop by 1%, then our liability would increase from 24 million to 34 million. And if the interest rates were to increase by 1% to 7.9%, then our liability would decrease to 16.5. So that's just the analysis that's done. And so we're falling a little short there. And then OPEB, which is our retiree medical, they do 2 sensitivity analysis. Right now our liability is 3.9 million, and that's at a 5.9% discount interest rate. It's lower because we don't have a trust. We do pay as you go. So we don't have an asset to pay this liability. We just pay as we go. What does that mean? That means when a retiree, we help them with their premiums. Right now, on average, every year, we're paying out about $100,000. We have 53 employees that are eligible for OPEB, the retiree medical, and we've got 14 currently collecting it. Who would be eligible? It would be anybody that retires at 53 that's done 10 plus years of service. This has been reformed. Anybody hired after July 1st of 2020 is no longer eligible for non-sworn, and anybody hired after July 1st of 2021 that's sworn is no longer eligible for retiree medical. But this just goes over our liability. Now, why is there 2 sensitivities? The first sensitivity is based off of the discount rate interest. Of course, if interest rate went from 5.9 to 6.9, then our liability would decrease to 3.6. And if the interest rate went down to 4.9, then our liability would increase by 4.2. Then the second one is medical costs. They just keep going up. So this one is if the price of medical went to 7.5%, then our liability would go up. And if medical went down, then our liability would go down. So they do 2 sensitivity analysis. We don't do the analysis. Again, this is Foster and Foster. It is helpful to know what our liability is. I can just let you know that for calendar year of 2025, medical went up 13%, and for 2026 is projected to go up 10.8%. Okay, audit results. So, their opinion, their unmodified opinion for all opinion units, which is a clean audit. So that's the positive news. Financial statements are fairly presented in all material respect. Accounting policies have been consistently applied. Estimates are reasonable. And disclosures are properly reflected in the financial statement. So that's good there. Another good news is material weakness reported none. So there were no material weaknesses. However, there were 3 significant deficiencies reported. So the first one, and this is going over the financial statements for the financial audit, the internal control over financial reporting, bank reconciliations, untimely preparation, and lack of review and approval. So that's something that Mike and I have already put something in place. They weren't being done monthly, they were being done annually, and this was really the first time they've audited us. That was the responsibility of my predecessor. We also have to come up with, well, basically, by the 21st of every month, the previous month's bank reconciliations will be complete. And they'll be complete by an accountant, and they'll be signed off by the director. And that will all be formalized, and so we won't fall behind or be doing bank reconciliations at year end. So that has been addressed, and we will do that. Number 2 is an error correction due to accounts receivable, revenue recognition. This still goes back to 2024. It's how we're doing our grant revenue in our receivables, and also some of those receivables, like the SRO grants, are now becoming uncollectible. So we're going to address that as well. And number 3 is the delay in financial reporting. So this has been kind of an ongoing issue. We've hired a new accountant. He started about 2 months ago. We've already started our year-end close process for 2026. We are committed to not having this be an issue moving forward, and I'm confident it won't be. And then no disagreements with management, no accounting issues, and no inappropriate activities were noted. And then the second audit is our single audit, which all goes to our federal expenditures. So we had $4.4 million in federal expenditures. So as long as we have 750 or more, we have to have a single audit. Our city engineer, soon to be our director of engineering, really helped assist us with. This is kind of a thorough audit. They were able to audit 70, they tested us 70%, so $3 million, and they came back with unmodified as well, so another clean audit. So that concludes the presentation tonight, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Are there any questions from the council?
There are no questions. This is great. Thank you very much. I will tell everybody, I challenged Natalie some months ago, and she met every challenge on getting this taken care of because it had gone on way too long. And I have every confidence that going forward, we will be having nice audits that'll be very simple and straightforward. It won't solve our financial problems. Plenty of companies go out of business with really good-looking books. But if you're not fighting that battle, you can go out and fight the other one. So anyway, I thank you very much. Congratulations. What you accomplished in a very short period of time is rather significant.
All right, thank you. Would any member of the public like to comment on this item? All right, I see none, so we will receive and file and acknowledge that this is done. Thank you very much for your very hard work in getting this done. I know we are very happy to have it completed. All right, item number 12.5, authorization for the city manager to execute a memorandum of understanding with Waste Connections of California, Inc., DBA El Dorado Disposal for SB 1383 compost procurement compliance. Ms. Kendrick.
Thank you, Mayor Gottberg and members of the City Council. Carol Kendrick, Director of Development Services. As the Council is aware, Senate Bill 1383 requires jurisdictions to procure a minimal annual quantity of recovered organic waste products, primarily compost. Placerville's current procurement target is 505 tons of compost per year, consistent with the Cal Recycle's conversion factor and the city's population-based requirement. The MOU before you provides a compliant, reliable, and cost-effective method for meeting that obligation. Since 2023, the city has partnered with Waste Connections to deliver SB 1383 compliant compost, manage the community collection site at 600 Truck Street and provide all required documentation, testing, and haul records for Cal Recycle reporting. Residents have also benefited from the free self-haul compost, and the site has operated smoothly under the Waste Connections management. At your June 9th meeting, staff presented an alternative provider offering a lower rate. Since that time, staff has been in communication with Waste Connections, and they have matched the competitive pricing of $10 per cubic yard, which is reflected in the updated MOU that is part of the staff report. This represents a significant reduction from the prior rate of $16.80 per cubic yard and results in an estimated annual cost of approximately $7,000 based on typical procurement volumes. Funding would be available through the general fund. Key provisions of the MOU include delivery of SB 1383 compliant compost in 20-ton increments to the community collection site. Waste Connections' responsibility for transport, site management, cleanliness, and CalCycle required testing and documentation. The city responsibility for site development materials and public education components, and a term through December 31st of 2027 with annual renewals unless terminated with a 60-day notice. Staff has reviewed the action under CEQA and determined it is categorically exempt under CEQA Guidelines Section 15308 as it constitutes an administrative action supporting environmental protection through compost use, carbon sequestration, soil health, and organic waste diversion. Although execution of the MOU is ministerial, staff is bringing this item to council consistent with city procurement practices and to formally authorize the city manager to execute the agreement. Therefore, staff recommends that the city council rescind resolution number 9543 and adopt the resolution approving the updated MOU with Waste Connections at the matched competitive rate. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and it looks like we do have representatives from El Dorado Disposal in the audience.
Are there any questions from the council?
I have a quick one. So I know we kind of ramped up the first couple of years towards our eventual target. How close is this 505 tons to what our actual requirement is going to be when we get to our full allotment, if that makes sense?
I don't have the answer to that, but I could look into that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Would any member of the public like to comment on 12.5? All right, I see none. I think if we can keep this local and for the same cost, that's a great thing to do. So
I remember when this all first came down, we were really worried that we wouldn't be able to get rid of all the mulch, and yet the mulch seems to magically disappear because you drive right by it on 49 and you look it over there, and sometimes it's a pile and then it's gone.
Yeah.
So, and it's really good.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. Thank you, guys. Thank you to Waste Management
Yeah.
for matching that and keeping it local and for keeping it in town. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll move staff recommendation.
I'll second that.
all right, I have a first and a second. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Gottberg?
Aye. All right, we are going to move on to 12.6, adoption of a resolution retroactively approving temporary upgrade pay, acting pay for unrepresentative executive management, confidential, and supervisory employee classifications effective January 2022. Ms. Tornin-Casa.
Good afternoon, Mayor Gottberg and City Council members. So so staff's recommending adopting a resolution retroactively approving and affirming temporary upgrade pay, acting pay for the three unrepresented groups, which are executive management, confidential unit, and supervisory unit. So temporary upgrade pay, which is also known as acting pay, is for employees assigned to an acting status, where they are performing 100% of the duties of a higher position. They would receive an additional stipend of no less than a 5% increase. It's like a step increase from their current salary. Acting pay was included in the International Union of Stationary Engineers Local 39 MOU agreement that was approved by City Council in open session on August 9th, 2022, which covered the periods of January 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2024. In that agreement, acting pay is referenced on page 27, section 15.2, and I apologize that the MOU was not attached to the staff report. Acting pay continues to be included in the Local 39 MOU agreement that currently is dated from January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2026. So the city has a longstanding past practice of providing the 3 unrepresented groups with the same additional compensation types. So in this case, temporary upgrade pay, acting pay, as those approved for the employees in the Local 39 unit. And although that, so just to be clear, temporary upgrade pay, acting pay is already being paid out to the 3 unrepresented groups. However, until City Council approves this resolution, the acting pay is not credible to PERS, okay, for their PERS retirement. So what are the budget impacts? And I apologize that this staff report was so vague. We put that the budget impact is minimal because from January 1st, 2022 through last Friday, July 10th of 2026, there's been a total of 3 unrepresented employees that have received acting pay. And over that time period, acting pay, which is like an add-on pay, totaled $5,514. By adopting this resolution, we're not paying out that $5,514. We're just saying that $5,514 that was earned is now eligible CalPERS retirement credible. So tonight I ask you to adopt the resolution, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Are there any questions from the council?
What are we doing here? Okay.
All right. I see none. Would any member of the public like to comment on this item? All right. I see none. I will bring it back up to the council for a motion.
I will move the item.
I will second.
All right. I have a first and a second. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Carter?
Aye.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Mayor Gottberg?
Aye. All right, we're going to move on to item number 13, council reports from other agency meetings. El Dorado County Transit Authority.
Meet next month.
All right, El Dorado County Transportation Commission.
We meet next month.
LAFCO.
We meet next week.
SACOG.
We meet next month.
Pioneer.
We meet next week.
Placerville Fire Safe Council. We did not meet either. Opportunity Knox.
We did not meet.
All right. Would anybody like to comment on none of the meetings that we went to?
All that we did not do.
All right.
Best use.
Item number 14, request for future agenda items. Anybody have a request for a future agenda item? All right. I see none. Do we have any city manager staff reports? Nothing. Any reports? Okay, great. Item 16, upcoming items. You can read those at your leisure. And so we are going to adjourn the meeting at 6:07 p.m.
And we're skipping a meeting. I don't know if anybody.
Yes, and we will not be meeting on July 28th.
All right, hold on.
Canceled that in our last meeting.
Okay, hold on. We need to say that we're losing our lawyer and our consigliere. Well, she's doing something else. We'll have a new one over there. But
Not yet.
Mona, we're being you. And helping us out.
Not yet, John. Yeah.
Yeah, what?
She's not leaving yet.
Well, she brought the new guy. When are you finally gone?
Surprise! Yeah. No, so we are making some changes internally at the firm with one of the retirements of my partners, which requires us to kind of shift. And so we are proposing, my colleague Steve Wong, who is sitting in the audience, this is a council decision that the council will reflect on and make. There's been a lot of, we're not imposing this on you. You don't have to go accept it, of course, but we would be pleased to continue service. And there's been a lot of changes in Placerville. And so, number one, I would help to have a seamless transition. So you're still going to be seeing me for a while.
Okay.
And I wanted to give you as much notice as possible, but and you're not going to lose me. I'm just not going to be coming to council meetings after a while, but you get more of chronic, not less of chronic so.
We get more chronic. I don't even know what that means. I'm sorry. I kind of blew everybody's high, but I was I was afraid we were going to leave and not say anything, but then we shouldn't have said anything. Well, I'm just going to take it. I'm just going to take it all back. Forget what I said. Yeah, I know. I was being very energetic about this whole thing. Anyway, you're welcome.
All right.
That's it.
I already adjourned the meeting, so.
So it didn't really happen. It didn't really happen.